afternoon. As promised in my last video not that long ago, we're going to have a video on Slavan Bilic. Now, West Ham have been indifferent as of late, and with Andy Carroll getting back in the team and lasting not that long into a game, getting sent off, and then them losing 3-0 to a newly promoted side, regardless that Brighton are playing well, which they are, but they lost 3-0. Joe Hart looked hopeless. The team looked hopeless. As a unit, there was nothing there that encourages me them going forward. I don't think West Ham will get relegated at this time, looking at other teams below them and some teams above them as well are struggling. But for some reason, Slavan Bilic has been one game away from the sack since he's basically been at West Ham. I feel sorry for Slavan Bilic. He has done exceptionally well with the players he's got. He did brilliantly as Croatian manager. He's done brilliantly as a club manager in other leagues. He is a cult club legend at West Ham. He really is. He's a club legend as a player. He's a cult figure in Croatian football. But I don't know how long he's going to last. I really think the next couple of games. Same with Mark Hughes at Stoke. I feel they're two managers that are under a lot of pressure. And Stoke conceded a lot of goals this season. A lot of goals. Admittedly, they conceded 7 against Man City, but anyone could concede 7 against Man City at the moment. But Stoke and West Ham. But I'm focusing on Slavan Bilic because he looked like a completely defeated man, like his job was gone. He physically on the touchline looked like he had no answers for the problems that Brighton were giving his side that day. He had no tactical tricks left. And they have lost some players at West Ham and they haven't replaced them. And they've had some very good players play for West Ham. Some very good players over the years. But in recent times, they have just not had the bite of West Ham teams of the past. And it's a club with a rich history, and I don't understand why they decided to leave Upton Park and go to the Olympic Stadium. I really don't, because 10-15 years ago, they first fell out in the Premier League when Glenn Roeder was in charge, and Glenn Roeder actually had a brain tumour at the time, seriously ill. Just put that one out there. They had not long refurbed Upton Park and actually increased the size of one of the stands. The main stand was increased in size. They did a refurb and increased the capacity not that long ago and spent many millions of pounds doing it. So they're now paying stupid amounts in rent to rent the stadium. They don't own the stadium, they're renting it. They don't own their own home. If there isn't a foul up financially, they are in serious problems. They haven't got their old ground to go back to, and I don't think Leighton Orient want to do a ground share with them somehow. Because that's the other club in the East End, and Leighton Orient have their own problems. I mean, and it would be insanity to have a ground share. They're no longer in the Football League at the moment. They are unfortunately now in the Conference, or the National League as it's called. But Slavan Bilic has a problem. The fans haven't warmed to the new stadium. Yes, it was sold out last night, but half through the second half, the fans were streaming out because it was 2-0 at half time. The fans were leaving in droves. Another thing I have noticed, a lot of empty seats this weekend at all the grounds. I watched Match of the Day last night. I also watched the Football League show on Channel 5 and the Championship League 1 and League 2. There's a lot of empty seats this weekend. I know the weather has been absolutely atrocious the last 2 weeks. We've had Hurricane Ophelia and Storm Brian. We've had some pretty stormy weather the last couple of weeks. I get weather can put people off, but there's a lot of empty seats at stadiums. And that has to worry Football League executives, people in the FA, Premier League, Football League, whatever. There are empty seats. And that hasn't gone unnoticed. And when fans start leaving with like 30 minutes left, it doesn't look good. Really doesn't. So I feel sorry for Slavan Bilic. I think his job is actually on the line. I think he's got a couple of games where the squad have got a man up and save him, because I think he's a very, very good manager. He's also a very, very good pundit. When he's been on at the World Cup in Brazil, he was hilarious, but he's also a very knowledgeable character. He speaks multiple languages. He's in a heavy metal band in his spare time. he is. He's a cult hero at whatever club he's been at. He's always been a cult hero. Back in domestic Croatian football, West Ham, and all the other clubs he's played for, he has attained cult status for some of his colourful antics. As Croatian manager, he is a legend. He's their most successful manager ever for games played and won. So he's not like he's a no-hoper. He's not like Hodgson at Crystal Palace, who still can't score against a lacklustre Newcastle side. So I don't know. There are a lot of questions to ask, and I'm asking them. I think West Ham have kept faith in him for a long time, but in the current merry-go-round, we've seen 2 managers go in the Premier League this season. We've seen 2 in the Football League go this season, so that's 4 already. We've seen the men's manager get sacked, and they lost last night as well. They lost 1-0. Hint, shouldn't have sacked him, but there we go. That's another story for another day. We've seen merry-go-rounds in Europe. Munich have sacked Ancelotti, which I think is insanity. Koeman's job's on the line at Everton. So I have fears for Ronald Koeman, Slavan Bilic and Mark Hughes. I think Ronald Koeman's the most likely to get sacked. There's a lot of rumours of discontent within his squad and within the club itself about how the day-to-day running of the sports side of it and day-to-day running of the finance side. There is issues with Everton on and off the field. They are playing today. If they lose today against Arsenal, I think he is done. He's cooked. But Slavan Bilic, I think, would be the next likely to go. And Mark Hughes, I think they're on the cusp of sticky water. I already do. Appleton wins first game in charge for Leicester, so there you go. It can be done. Leicester seem to like caretaker managers, they seem to do quite well. But I look at West Ham and they've stuck faith to Slavan Bilic. I look at Bournemouth with Eddie Howe. They could have gone, no, you're gone. And they've stuck with him and they're still in the bottom 3, but they're playing well. I think, and the fans like Eddie Howe. The club itself realises that every season they could get relegated. They're not bothered. They're enjoying their stay in the top flight. Swansea might go down this route. So there's some clubs who might ditch the manager. De Boer at Crystal Palace was only given 5 games. I think that's not right, personally, but I don't think the players bought into it. But they're meant to be professionals. They're meant to adapt, and they didn't. So that's my view on that. But I think Slavan Bilic is quite likely to possibly lose his job before Christmas. But we were saying this about Sam Allardyce, and he stayed at West Ham when fans were calling for his head, and he actually guided them to quite a high league position for the squad he had. So West Ham fans, hold fire, give time. Sullivan Gold, they're not my favourite people involved in football, and they are actually involved in this tax scandal with Newcastle and Chelsea and some French clubs as well. That has disappeared off the radar. Newcastle have been in the High Court, but West Ham haven't. But there's something to do with Jemba Bar's transfer, and that is going to linger on and on. That's not going to go away anytime soon, and we await to hear the findings of that. But I'm going to stop the video there. I hope Slavan Bilic stays. But I would not be surprised if he is also sacked before Christmas, along with Mark Hughes. And maybe Swansea as well. I might go for major change. Ronald Koeman, though, is the most likely to get sacked. Because the other clubs that I've mentioned, the fans are getting a little bit frustrated sometimes with some of the performances. But there is these rumours of revolt and disquiet and unrest that there are at Everton. There's a lot of things. I read the paper this morning. I know it's the newspapers and they're not the most reliable. Sports news is generally more reliable than the rest of the media that they churn out, because sports is actually the stuff where they can't get away from facts and figures and numbers and scores. They can't lie about it being a 5-3 or a 0-0. It's kind of happened. So I read the pull out from the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, and they're both very similar. They are basically mentioning that Ronald Koeman's having issues with players and the morale and the attitude, and whether they are buying into his tactics, or has he he's too much of a disciplinarian, is he not relaxed enough? He never had these problems at Southampton. He never had these problems in the Dutch league. I don't know why he's having them at Everton. I really, really don't. He did really well at Southampton, and the players bought into what he was about. So I thought, I don't know. But I fear Slavan Bilic might go as well. In fact, any of the clubs I mentioned, I fear that their managers could be given the chop apart from Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth have bought into Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe is just a cult legend of that club. He's the Slavan Bilic of Bournemouth. He's a cult legend. He played for the club for many, many years. He's managed the club before. The fans love him. He loves the fans. The club know that to be in the Premier League is a miracle when they first went up. And now it is, they know they're going to be down the bottom end of the table. But they got an away win, they got a key away win, they've got some momentum. They're playing well, they're just coming up a little bit short. But they are really giving it a good fist down there. I can see Bournemouth getting out of the mess, and I can see Stoke and Swansea and Everton getting into the mess, and West Ham. I really can. If they start chopping and changing managers, will that work for them? I don't know. I think it is suicide to do so this early in the season, but at the same time, it's suicide not to get rid of someone who's disruptive or not working out, and I think Ronald Koeman's quite likely. So there you go. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll have some videos when I get back from the ice rink.